Right, guys, we are back and we're going to be going through the gymnastics bias. So we're going to be talking about some specific nutrition points so you can get the most out of this bias. Now, for gymnastics, it's obviously a very specific area that we're kind of focusing on. Lots of different movements in there, handstand push-ups, pull-ups, double unders even, all of these types of things. So there's quite a varied number of exercises that people might kind of struggle on. Like someone might be really good at handstand push-ups, but they might really struggle on pull-ups. So we're going to be talking about gymnastics as a whole rather than going into like specifics. But we're going to talk about some common issues that we see. We're going to talk about how to set your plan up for improving gymnastics by identifying your limiting factors. Okay, this is a very key thing. We've got 3 things that we're going to think really help you to get the most out of your gymnastics training. We're going to talk about some real key considerations for going into your training sessions. Okay, so Tom, let's just go into it. A couple of things that we see with common issues that we see with gymnastics training is like kind of local muscular fatigue, such as maybe you don't feel that the bigger muscles are fatiguing, but these little ones like grip and forearms and shoulders start to fatigue, and that prevents you from doing further exercising. We often see that people do gymnastics as a finisher or as an after sessions. It's like these extras, or it's not necessarily prioritized as a thing that they want to get the most out of your session. Now, on the gymnastics bias, obviously there's 2 a days, so we are going to be talking about how to structure that. And look, struggling under fatigue, like I think this is something that I see a lot when people say I can do a lot of muscle ups or a lot of pull ups, handstand push ups, fresh. But when anything goes in before that, a rower, a salt bike, all of a sudden you get 1-2 reps. One we didn't miss on there was just feeling heavy in sessions. Kind of feeling a little bit like, I don't want to eat too much going into session, or, I feel sluggish, especially maybe after a period of, not training as much, and you feel a bit heavier and sluggish on the rings or handstand push-ups. These are common issues, but look, we're going to go through how to address these by identifying what your limiting factor is. Okay. So Tom, we've got 3 here, and we power to weight ratio, strength, and fatigue accumulation. But straight off the bat, power to weight ratio is relatively simple. Basically, it's how strong you are compared to your body weight. So for me, I'm going to use myself as an example. I've got a relatively good power to weight ratio. I don't weigh very much, and I'm relatively strong, especially in a pulling movement. So I'm very good at bar muscle ups, pull-ups, and stuff like that. So the issue for me, my limiting factor isn't power to weight ratio. However, for those that maybe do struggle in terms of knowing that if you dropped 2, 3, 4, 5 kilos, actually you've got the strength there, and you would then be able to massively improve your capacity, massively improve the quality of movement. So what we want to try and do here is set up your diet to lose body fat overall. Tom, you've got to be a little bit of a thing you do at your gym, and you like the wall ball thing where you hold a wall ball, you put someone on with a weights vest.
Yeah. We often think about like adding weight to exercises, don't we? Like we all like to do like weighted chin ups, or we've seen people do like ring muscle ups with a plate on between their feet and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose the other way to think about it is like, do it the other way around. Like we've all probably done workouts where we've put a weight vest on and it makes it harder. Yeah. So, what happens actually, particularly maybe if you're, maybe a heavier guy, stronger guy, like how much easier would handstand push-ups be if you weren't wearing that weight vest, if you were 2, 3, 4, 5 kilos lighter? Like there's not many competitions and not that many opportunities where it's often all about maximal strength. It's normally about work capacity, isn't it? And often gymnastics comes up in chippers or they're big volumes. So again, if we're able to do more by being a little bit lighter, I think, it's going to improve someone's overall athletic potential.
Yeah, massively. And like you said, Tom said there, picturing taking off a weight vest, imagine how nice that would feel. But also we've got to understand is that, as Tom said, there's not always just kind of one element to a workout. Now, fat is a metabolically active tissue. It requires oxygen. So if we dropped a bit of body fat, all of a sudden it improves our aerobic capacity. We have to move less weight, so around these movements, and that can then impact your recovery potential, or it can lower the amount that you fatigue doing all these other movements, so you get to the bar or handstand push-ups feeling fresher. Okay, so yes, power to weight ratio is a thing, but also losing a bit of body fat can help from that side of things as well. So we want to look. We're not going to sugarcoat this. You need to set yourself into a plan where you're going to lose body fat. We need to be in a calorie deficit across the week, not just on one day or 3 days a week. It needs to be consistent to be done to do that. But look, we want to try and be efficient with this. Okay, we want to be focusing on, we're still improving our gymnastics, so we want to prioritize this. So we want to be thinking about maybe using rest days as our time to kind of drop our calories, and we want to maybe thinking about, okay, the other session in the day is not to say that we just sandbag it and get rid of it and don't eat around it, but we want to make sure that we go into our gymnastics sessions feeling good, because that is our priority. We want a gymnastics bias. We want to bias towards getting the most out of those sessions, and that's a really, really key thing to focus on, guys. Okay, so be consistent with the calorie deficit, making sure that it's not too aggressive when you're training, and then potentially on maybe deload weeks or times where you're not going to be focusing on competing, or you're just kind of like almost like just maintaining your training volume, that's the time to maybe kind of think about, I'm going to prioritize my nutrition and drop this body fat, as opposed to when you've got competitions or you've got a really testing week or something like this. Guys, this is not the time to be in a deficit. Okay, this is the time to focus on fueling your training, to put the right numbers to perform well. And then times when you haven't got training as a primary focus, and nail your nutrition, and again just work on that priority, that limiting factor, to then when you come back into a new training block, you're going to be absolutely flying. Okay, so power to weight ratio, if this is you, get on this and follow those points. Now, if strength is your limiting factor, this is something where you maybe have only got like 1 or 2 reps, at a certain movement, or that you can do, you're really good at kipping, but you haven't quite got the capacity from a strict point of view. So often what you see people here is don't fall into the trap of thinking gymnastics is a light session. We've got to be fueling it. You've got to prioritize the gymnastics portion of your training sessions and training day. Okay, so it's 2 a day. We're still going to be focusing on getting fit, but you've got to prioritize the gymnastics part of this, guys. And look, if you're going to be doing strict work, which is probably the case, if you're going to, that the strength is your limiting factor, then you've got to fuel this. Okay, like I know people think about not eating before gymnastics because they don't want to feel heavy, they don't want to feel like bloated, and do whatever. We'll come on to how to do that, but you've got to fuel it, because once you do, you'll see a real noticeable improvement in the number of reps to do, the ability to get back to the bar, or to get upside down, and have that kind of push and power output. Like Tom, you said your issue used to be strength, in terms of maybe your limiting factor it's kind of shifted, but what types of things did you do recently to kind of maybe break through this?
Very simply, I ate more food and I ate more carbs.
Yeah.
Because I think people have to kind of maybe get that misconception out of your head that it's going to blunt your progress.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, if you're well fueled in the right way, so eating the right things in the right times, you're able to do more. So your capacity increases. So you're going to offset that anyway. Like, you're not going to gain like kilos of body fat. You're going to be able to do more. You're going to be able to get stronger. And then, that's going to then transfer over from the strict part into the kipping element. You're going to be able to perform those kipping moves for longer if that foundation, that base is really, really solid.
Yeah, exactly that. Tom nailed it there. Like, if you've got the movements, now you just need a little bit more of the, let's say, get the most stimulus out of like some strict work, rather than, just hitting either the same number of reps. I see this a lot where people kind of do EMOMs, or they do some gymnastics work, and 2-3 weeks later they're still doing the same number of reps, and because they're not fueling that session. So If you're the one of these people that are staring at the bar or staring at the mat or, you know, or whatever, then you've got to be thinking about fueling this. And we'll talk about, let's say, not feeling heavy or you know, how to feel this in a minute. But look, the other kind of limiting factor that I see is fatigue. Now, Tom, you probably are onto this now, where you are relatively lean, you know, you're good condition, you're strong, so you've got kind of strict movements there. Now it's about improving your capacity, the number of reps that you can do, that high volume, or as Tom said earlier, about doing it after an aerobic piece or in part of a workout. Now, I think that this is a massive thing that maybe kind of people kind of look over in terms of like, well, why does that happen? I think I've got three kind of key areas that people miss when then this is their issue. So, guys, lactate is a bit of a weird one. Okay, we won't go into this today, but if you go onto us, I'll link it on the to the left of this, to the right of this video, on the hub about lactate. And actually, there's a little bit of misunderstanding, but it's about this build up of fatigue. Okay, so it's the metabolites or lack of substrate that causes us to fatigue. Like, well, why do we do this? Now, I just think that, as Tom said, like, what did you do to get better? I ate a little bit more, and I ate a little bit more carbs. So this is a massive thing. Okay, when we think about fatigue, don't just think about that single session. You've got to be thinking about that double session that you did yesterday. You've got to be thinking about what you've done beforehand. And again, often I see is people do gymnastics as a second part. They do their lifting because it's my bigger movements. Like, you know, from a bodybuilding point of view, Tom, what do you normally do? You always do squats and bench before you do any tricep work. You know, what we want to be thinking about doing is maybe kind of switching that up, because it can potentially cause fatigue if we're going into it, like grip, you know, overall fatigue and stuff like that, lack of substrate. So we want to be thinking about eating enough calories. Okay, so if you're relatively lean, you're strong, like Tom said, the more calories that you put in, correct ones, the more work you're going to be able to do, the higher work capacity that you're going to do, and that's going to improve your performance. Okay. And carbohydrates, again, people think that gymnastics is this light thing and that we, you know, it's you need carbohydrates. It's a high intensity, it's a high volume, it's a lot of the energy systems that are used often for gymnastics work is the anaerobic system, glycolytic. You need carbohydrates to perform at your best.
And we've got that like concentration element as well. Where's that skill, again, working under fatigue. So again, I think that's where, like we've said it before, like we don't want to be running off fumes. Yeah. Like we want to be well fueled so we can keep good concentration, so that, you know, the kit's working well and everything's nicely in sync, everything's smooth. Because we've all seen it, like as soon as your technique starts to go, every rep becomes like 2-3 times as hard, isn't it? When you're having to really, really dial in your technique and your handstand push-ups, or you're getting your hips to the bar and a muscle up, whatever. Like, so again, just having a little bit more fuel in the tank means you should be able to go longer and be able to do more.
Yeah. That's it. Like, and I don't think that we're just saying, like, you know, every time we come on here, right, eat more carbs, eat more calories. It's not that. It's about being sensible, guys, about when to do it. Okay, so you've got to prioritize it, like we spoke about in previous videos. You've got, you know, performance sessions and adaptive sessions where, you know, these times where you maybe got a bit more volume, a bit more before that session, and prioritize it, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to get stronger, so you got to fuel that. So, you know, often we see that people are a little bit scared and of eating that, especially around gymnastic sessions, and, you know, that's something to really focus on. And look, as Tom said, like, maybe it's local muscular fatigue, but that concentration level is a massive one. That, you know, like you say, if you haven't got the coordination because all you can think about is smashing your burger post session because you haven't eaten enough going into it, that's not good. Okay, so we need to make sure that we have enough going into the sessions. And one of the other areas that I think is a really common thing is maybe doing too many extras. This is something that we touched on in the strength video. Maybe doing too many things that are not going to help us to get better at gymnastics. You know, again, guys, I know we want everything. We all want to be snatching 130 kilos, and we all want to be doing 200 kilos back squats by 7% body fat and doing 30 unbroken muscle ups. But sometimes we need to prioritize it, and gymnastics bias, we need to do that. And I'm not saying that you should, like, say, get rid of any of the training, but like Tom said on previous videos, is to potentially use the lower number of sets on like strength work, on other work, and then do with a higher number of sets on the gymnastics work, because that's our priority at the moment. Prioritize it. Don't do too many extras, which is going to impact and cause fatigue going into your gymnastic sessions. Okay. And look, another one that we can use is, if your sessions are really long, then using that intra workout, to help kind of get through that. So this is something that can be really beneficial. Now, Tom, what are you currently taking supplementation wise?
I'm currently using creatine.
Yeah.
Currently using beta alanine.
Yeah.
I've got vitamin D, and then I've got like zinc and magnesium for recovery.
Nice, very good. So really good, done the basics there. So that's something that we're talking about here, doing the basics first, like calories, carbs, supplementation that are going to help across the board. And Tom's already kind of taken a couple of here that are basically helping you to buffer lactate to help manage that fatigue element that can come with gymnastics. And this can also cross over into the strength side of things and into the aerobic and engine building as well. But beta alanine is a muscle buffer. It builds up levels of carnosine, which help to buffer lactic acid or lactate. And one that a lot of people don't think about with this type of thing is beetroot. Tons of research coming out on that. Creatine at the moment as well. And one that some of you might have used is the X Endurance product. I think it's just called X Endurance Lactate. Basically helps to let's say delay fatigue, buffer lactic acid, and help with managing this common issue that we see with a lot of people when we're doing such a higher volume kind of CrossFit exercises.
With those supplements there, Liam, like they're things that I take almost year round, and I'm sure a few things I listed people do as well. Is there anything that you would recommend, like if we're flicking through the program and we see Friday's got high volume, or maybe let's say it's testing week and it's 5 minutes max bar muscle ups, is there anything we could do like 1 or 2 days before to improve any performance?
Yeah, so like more of an acute side of things rather than like there's a lot. People put beta alanine in pre-workouts, by the way, team, because it makes you tingle sometimes. So people think, oh, I'm tingling, I must be, I must be able to lift more. It doesn't really work like that. You've got to load it. So like Tom said, what can I do in the day before, the morning of, 2 days before? Look, beetroot, guys, there's a lot of research coming out, new research about acute supplementation and how it improves strength and anaerobic exercise performance, as well as like aerobic. So a lot of the research is done on cyclists and longer endurance stuff, but actually beetroot is coming out now where even taking it 2 hours, I think the study was 2.5 hours or 3 hours before, and it improves strength markers and power output. So these types of things can be really beneficial. So I would suggest that if you've got a maybe it's Super Saturday and it's got tons of gymnastics in, you may be thinking about, right, I want a low beetroot juice for 2-3 days beforehand, take it on the morning. Creatine, building your creatine stores up can be a beneficial thing as well. So if you're not taking creatine, or you kind of hit and miss, make sure that you're nailing that. And then I would just be, like you say, just being proactive with your carbohydrate intake and calorie intake, and not just chasing it on that morning, making sure that you are kind of refueling around those workouts leading into it. So that 2-3 days, don't be chasing it on the day that you need to perform, making sure that you're being proactive and let's say doing the basics. So, but beetroot, keep your eyes peeled. We're doing lots more on this because there's a lot of new research coming out about it, but you can box those 4 off, guys, or a combination of them. You'll be doing more. So look, guys, key points to consider in terms of the actual training sessions. Okay, one thing that I think is we've all kind of experienced, maybe when we've had too much knocko and we get up on the handstand push-up, and all of a sudden it feels like it's coming out of our nose. So one of the things, guys, don't overhydrate before gymnastic sessions. Potentially you're gonna be sloshing around if you're doing pull-ups. If you're doing handstand push-ups or double unders or something like this, then we don't want to be sloshing around. So kind of bringing it back, making sure we're adequately hydrated going into the session, as opposed to kind of doing it just around the session. Tom kind of spoke about it before, he's like, well, what did I do? I increased my carbohydrates. and I ate a little bit more. So we want to be thinking about being sensible with this and not just eating a load more volume. Can we use calorie dense foods? But they have low volume. So this might be something that you want to use in your pre-workout snack or pre-workout meal, but also maybe using it as that, like I said about before, that day before or 2 days before. So you've not got a lot of residual, weight in your gut. You haven't got a lot of volume there. Like, Tom, what kind of things would you recommend in terms of maybe kind of using in that, especially in that pre-workout, maybe that kind of 2-3 hours beforehand?
Yeah, so rather than maybe thinking about, I'm going to have apples or I'm going to have oranges, like using a little bit of dried fruit, like suddenly it fits like in the palm of your hand. You only have to visualize, like, right, a banana or an apple, right, it's quite big, whereas like, some dates, some raisins, that kind of stuff, saurine loaves, the little snack ones, are things that you can eat very quickly. They haven't got too much kind of extra water or fiber. So that, like I say, the key is to get those kind of foods in so they can be nicely digested and kind of away from that part of our digestive system.
Yeah.
So it can be readily used and available.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, those really, really easy, guys. Like you say, just don't be thinking about eating too much, but making sure it's calorie dense so you're getting the carbohydrates and calories in to fuel your sessions. Look, one thing to kind of finish on, guys, is to eat a little bit of a larger snack further away from the session. Okay, so rather than that kind of maybe an hour or 90 minutes beforehand, be thinking about maybe having like a larger snack a bit further away to give your body time to actually digest it. So this is something where I see where when you get your food choices correct, you don't feel heavy. You don't feel that kind of, a bloatedness going in, or you feel sluggish on the rings, or you're kind of, feel like you're pulling a truck or anything like that. But you've got to be thinking about getting that in and being proactive. And that's such a key thing, especially if you're doing 2 sessions a day, so make sure that you're being sensible with this. So with start kind of pre-workout kind of timeline here, making sure that that's maybe 2 hours and maybe making that a slightly bigger snack. Okay. Again, same thing, carbs and protein, minimal fat, minimal fiber, same thing. So look, you can change this rice cake, banana. You can have, like you say, change it to banana chips. You can have dried fruit, like using these things that are not going to take up a lot of volume in your stomach, and maybe making that 2 hours before. Missing out the liquid-based nutrition, just making sure that you're adequately hydrated across the day. That's a really, really key thing, guys, going into that session. So yeah, really, really sensible to kind of focus on those. And look, the gymnastics session is 2 a day. Okay. So what I want you to be thinking about doing is coming over to the JST homepage on the hub. If you come right down to the bottom here, we've got nutrition for double sessions. So making sure that you just download the slides, have a little watch of this. We've got 4 really key points for you to focus on in terms of getting the most out of your double sessions, and which hopefully then you can prioritize your gymnastics, start to see some improvements, and really start to kind of nail being around on that bar and all those handstand push-ups, because we know they're going to be coming up in all of the competitions, and it's always nice to feel a bit more confident, isn't it, going into those things and not just be like, I'm not going to be staring at that pull-up bar or those rings for a little bit longer. So Tom, anything you want to kind of finish on there, buddy?
No, yeah, all wrapped up, nice and simple. Like I say, just don't be afraid to eat a little bit more of the right things to fuel performance. And for me and the clients I've worked with, identifying your limiting factor is that unlocking the door to success and increasing your performance.
Yeah. Lovely stuff, mate. Right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And as always, just don't be a stranger. If you need anything, reach out to us on email, on Instagram, and I hope to guide you in the right direction. Cheers, Tate.